It's Monday evening, and I have decided to do an additional video this week. I've received several messages and I've watched several videos, and I have been debating on doing a video on this topic for a while. And it's a topic I feel really familiar with, but I guess because I was new to the WLS community, I somehow wanted to question my credibility and whether or not I actually had something valuable to say on this topic. And lately I've just been getting these messages and watching these videos, and I thought, you know what, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to have this conversation and throw it out there, and if it helps someone, great, and if you are not interested, you can just, hit the delete button or something. So anyway, that's where I'm at. And of course I'm home and it's evening, so I got the weird lighting thing going on. Sorry. So I want to talk about addiction. And I want to talk about what it is and where it comes from and how people get into that mess and how, most importantly, to get out of it. And I know that that little sentence sounds like, wow, so easy, 1, 2, 3. But it's not. It's a process. So let's see. Addiction is something that I danced with. Addiction is something I've been dancing with for a very, very long time. And probably the first memories I have of addictive behavior was with food when I was a kid. And I was about 10. And I remember getting up from the dining room table and I would hit the bread box. And as I put the bread back in the bread box, I would eat several pieces with butter. And years and years and years and years and years later in therapy, I found out that the reason I was doing that was because my experience at the dinner table connecting with those around me was so empty, like I wasn't connecting with these people. And so I was emotionally hungry. And a physical thing, it was I need to feel stuffed thing. It was a comfort food thing. Okay? So those are my first memories. And I didn't know I had PCS growing up. I didn't know how that played into my whole thing. I was bulimic about age 15 or 16. I discovered bulimia. I discovered alcohol before I left home. I left home the day after I graduated high school and was kind of on my own in the world and was completely unprepared. So drugs and alcohol were a coping thing. It was the 70s, so it was rampant and prevalent, party being cool, and it was also a very good coping device. So by the time I was 20, I was fighting my weight and controlling it with a lot of exercise that later I could no longer do, and that's when my weight really started to go up. I was an addict, I was an alcoholic, and I was bulimic, and I was in recovery before my 21st birthday. And I did about 10 years of really, really serious recovery work, and then I finally hit the jackpot and was no longer an addict or an alcoholic or bulimic or eating compulsively, and went from there. And here we go. So what is addiction? Well, there's research that talks about addiction having maybe a genetic component or some sort of a physical connection. But if you read those studies really carefully, what they're really talking about is a genetic propensity to addiction. And then there is the theory of the addictive compulsive personality, which comes more from the social sciences, the shrinks, the sociologists, the psychologists, versus the biologists. But both of those people are really talking about people who have more of a propensity to become an addict. They don't really address the compulsion of addictive behavior, the compulsivity component. And so there's a difference between addictive behavior and being an addict. For instance, addictive behavior is, I'm going to go to a party and I'm going to have a few drinks, and that's going to help me relax, and that's going to help me have a good time, because I don't think I could have as good a time at a party without having a few drinks. That's addictive behavior. You become an addict when you can no longer go to a party without drinking. Like, you cross the line of choice. It's now something that controls you rather than you control it. Okay? So there's addictive behavior, and then there's being an addict. And once you're an addict, you've crossed the line. And you don't feel like you can control it. And many times physically you don't have control. You know, it's very difficult. But you reach a point where you wake up and you realize, I'm an addict. I can't control this anymore. And it could be anything. I mean, the math equation for addiction is A tries to change B. Okay? A could be anything, right? Remember your basic math. A variable, anything. It could be drugs, alcohol, food, sex, gambling, shopping, negative abusive relationships, needy people, workaholic, right? It could be exercise. It could be religion. Anytime you look for something out there to change something in here, that's part of the addictive equation. And guess what? There's nothing out there that can fix you in here. It's an inside job. Okay? So that's A, tries to change. Well, there is no math symbol for tries to change. But that's the intent. I'm stressed, so I'm going to have a cigarette. I'm nervous, so I'm going to take a Valium. I'm depressed, so I'm going to go shopping. See the connection? Okay. So A tries to change B. And B could be anything. Loneliness, anger, frustration, boredom, procrastination, stress, social retardation, insecurity, sexual crisis, anything. So again, the other variable B can be anything. So addiction is A tries to change B and gets out of control. Okay? Where does this come from? Well, it's not a physical thing and it's not a sociological thing. It's kind of a lot of everything. But here's the bottom line. Some of us go out into the world better prepared than others. We are a product of our environment. Now, this does not mean that we're victims, that we, have been persecuted, that we have no choice, that we have no power, and the reason we're an addict is because of our parents or our family or our neighborhood or our circumstances. Okay, whatever happened to you up to this point in your life, there's good, there's bad, there's ugly, and guess what? It's your job to deal with it. Okay, so this is not a blame game. This is a take stock game. This is, when you go out in the world, you have a toolbox, and that toolbox is what you're going to use to make it. And some people have a great supply of tools and know how to use them all. Some people have a screwdriver and a ruler, and that's all they got to go out into the world. Well, it's hard to chop down trees and build houses with a screwdriver and a ruler. You're missing a few tools, okay? Everybody who raised you and influenced you did the very best they could with what they had to work with what was in their toolbox. And so a parent who has never operated a drill can't teach you how to operate a drill. Probably won't even put a drill in your toolbox. So there you are, 26 years old, and you need a drill. And you need to know how to use it. And you don't. You have two choices at that point. You can escape that uncomfortable situation by practicing an addictive behavior, or you can ask for help, buy a drill, read the book, and learn how to use it, and move on. And that little scenario is kind of the difference between being lost in addiction and being happy, joyous, and free in life. I'm watching the timer. So, we don't all have everything that we need to be happy, joyous, and free in this world. And some of us, when we came across situations, found that we could deal with that situation using something out there. And I'm going to have to do a part 2. Sorry. Hold on, be right back.